Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to the last day of Bookmas. It is crazy that Christmas is already here. It's already almost 2025. Like, I cannot believe how fast this year has gone. But I am very, very excited for 25. I'm very grateful for what 2024 brought to me. And today, for the last day of Bookmas, we are doing an end of the year book tag, basically going over a lot of different questions about certain books and what won that category for me. The questions that I will be answering, I mostly got just from Google searches, honestly, that I found online. Some of them are also from like Sarah or Destiny's channels because I love them so much. I think I have over 20 questions to answer and I read over 150 books this year. If you guys want to go see every single book, I do have my Goodreads linked down in my link tree. So that's a lot of books. We're really just going to be going over a lot of favorites, some disappointments, a little bit of everything. Let's just get right into this video. For the first question, an unpopular book that I loved, I went with How I'll Kill You by Brenda Stefano. This isn't like I don't know, like, I feel like it is unpopular because I've never seen anyone else talk about it. I am on TikTok a lot and I've never seen another person on TikTok hold up this book and recommend it, but I like to recommend it as often as I can, like with any thriller recommendations or just more unique books, because I feel like this book deserves all the hype and it does not get it. It definitely needs to be more popular than it is. So like I said, this is a thriller, but it is so interesting. I actually talk about it a lot in my 24 books of 2024. So if you want to go check out that one, I would definitely recommend it because that book, or that video, is like all of my 5-star or 4.5-star reads this year. And this is a 5-star read this year. It is just such, again, like an interesting thriller. It has romance in it, which you don't really expect in thrillers all the time. At least the thrillers that I usually read, I don't expect that. And it was just beautifully written. It has some really beautiful quotes, actually. So I definitely love this one. And it is not that popular, but it needs to be more popular. So the next question is a popular book that I didn't love. So basically the complete opposite of the last question. And for that, I'm going to go with Powerful by Lauren Roberts. I did still like this book. I wasn't obsessed with it. And I feel like every single person I saw talk about this book absolutely loved it. And I was just like, I'm not really like getting the hype around it. I did like having more of a backstory about Peyton and her best friend, but like, I don't know, it was just kind of meh for me. I feel like it wasn't totally necessary to the story of the Powerless series. And then I'm also gonna go with The Coven. This like blew up over the summer because it has gorgeous sprayed edges. I actually just ended up reading it on Kindle Unlimited, so I didn't even have the pretty edges. But again, like, it wasn't that I hated the book, but I definitely didn't love it. Like, I feel like everyone else I saw talking about it and recommended it just loved it. And I was like, I feel like the quality is not there, first of all. Also, I feel like the plot was just lacking. So I definitely didn't love it. It was very fast-paced and easy. Like, again, it's an enjoyable, kind of thoughtless read, but it was nothing substantial. Next question, a book that was overhyped. This one came to me very quickly. The Pumpkin Spice Cafe. This was blowing up, again, all over TikTok this fall because everyone said it was like the perfect small town romance. It was spicy, grumpy sunshine, like just like Gilmore Girls. And I read it and I was like, does the town feel reminiscent of Stars Hollow? Yes, that for sure. But like, this is not giving Luke and Lorelai. I did not get grumpiness from the male main character at all. And like, it was just poorly written. I did not like the spice. I literally skipped the spice scenes because I just did not think they were well written at all. So I feel like this one was definitely overhyped. I mean, it does have some good fall vibes, but people saying it was like a 5 out of 5-star read are lying. I'm just kidding. They're not lying because reading is subjective. Everyone has different thoughts and opinions on books, but for me, it was definitely overhyped. Favorite main characters. I came up with 4 male main characters and then 4 female main characters that were definitely my top this year. I definitely do have a lot of new favorite characters from so many great books that I read this year, so it was really hard to narrow it down to even 4, but it is a good list. First, we have Theo Silva. He is from Reckless, which is book 4 in the Elsie Silver Chestnut Springs series, and he is everything. Like, he's such a good dad, he's such a good friend and boyfriend. I'm obsessed with Theo Silva. Then we have Johnny Kavanaugh from the Boys of Tommen series. If you've read Binding 13, you know. Johnny is just the biggest sweetheart, the most loving and caring boyfriend ever. Like, and he's literally a teenager, but he acts like a full-grown adult because he has been raised so well by his parents. He would do anything for his girlfriend and the people that he loves. He is just the cutest. Also, Joey Lynch from the Boys of Tommen series, from Saving and Redeeming 6. Joey has been through so much in his life. Again, he is a teenager and he has basically raised his younger siblings since he was like 12 years old, and it's just a terrible household. He has his own struggles because he's in a terrible household, and my heart just goes out to Joey so much. He is my baby. He is probably my all-time favorite character from that series. And then my last favorite male main character is Ryan Shea from book 2 of the Windy City series, The Right Move. He is the perfect book boyfriend. There's fake dating in that book, and Indy, who is his roommate slash girlfriend, she is like trying to teach him how to be the perfect book boyfriend because she is a reader, and that is just perfection to me. But now on to my favorite female main characters. Number 1, we have Aoife Malloy. This is Joey's girlfriend from the Boys of Tommen series, and she is just such an amazing and supportive woman and girlfriend to Joey. She does not put up with his crap. She is like, you are gonna get yourself fixed, like, because this is not it. You can't keep living like this. In fact, if you do keep living like this, you're not gonna be living much longer. So she means business. And then we also have Shannon Lynch from the Boys of Tommen series. This is Johnny's girlfriend and Joey's younger sister, and she's living in that same household as Joey, experiencing her own traumatic events in that household. So she is just so strong. Again, she's a teenager. She's 15, 16 years old, and she's been putting up with it her whole life. And she's just so brave and still so, like, full of light and happiness, even though the cards she's been dealt in life have been absolutely terrible. And then we have Georgia from the X-Vows. I don't know, I just feel like I related so much to Georgia because she is kind of like a people pleaser. She doesn't want to feel like a burden to her friends, so she doesn't, like, bring up any concerns or bring up really anything that she wants. Like, does not bring up anything at all because she doesn't want to be a hassle. And, like, that is me. So I feel like anytime I read about a character like that, I just relate so much, and I love the book so much because I feel like I am living in the book. And then we have Elsa from The Four Winds. This is a Kristen Hanna book, super sad and depressing because it takes place during the Great Depression in Texas, and Elsa and her family are going through it as, like, everyone living in that time was, and she's just trying to be the best mother and wife that she can in these circumstances. I just think she is so brave and so strong, and it's really inspiring because women were living like this back then. Women still live like that today, you know. As a mother, I feel like it was just such an amazing story about family and what being a mother means, what those sacrifices look like as a mother. I just thought it was beautiful. Next question is new favorite author, and I chose 2. For the first one, I went with Ashley Poston. I read all of her books out so far this year. I started with The 7 Year Slip, and then I read A Novel Love Story, and then The Dead Romantic, so kind of in a wonky order there because that is not like release order, but I seriously loved all of these. I thought they were so great. I love the magical realism that she can write. And also Erin A. Craig. I had read House of Salt and Sorrows and House of Roots and Ruin last year in 2023, but then this year I read Small Favors and The 13th Child, and it just solidified the fact of how much I love Erin A. Craig's writing. It is dark and spooky and gothic, but it's YA fantasy, so it's not like ever too dark. I just really enjoy all of her books. The most frustrating book I read this year was actually my most recent read, and that is In 5 Years by Rebecca Surley. This one had really great potential. I even loved the first few chapters. I thought it was a great idea and like build up to the story, but we definitely fell off. But this book was supposed to be like more magical realism because Danny, the main character, is up for a job interview at like her dream job, and during the interview she is asked, where do you see yourself in 5 years? She gives a planned out response of, oh, I want to be married, I want to have a house, I want to still be working at this job, working my way up. And then that night she gets proposed to, so she's engaged, and then she has a dream for an hour where she is living 5 years in the future with this man in an apartment. She has no idea how she got here, and then she wakes up back in like the present in her body. So I just thought that was so cool, but that's like all we really get of the magical realism element. And then the ending infuriated me so much because like I don't know why Rebecca Surley chose to write the characters to do what they do at the end, but like it was so frustrating. I hated it. Next, for the longest and the shortest book, the longest book was definitely House of Flame and Shadow. This is Crescent City number 3. I think, yeah, there's almost 900 pages in it, I think. 835, so not quite 900, but like close enough. And then the shortest book I read, other than like novellas, like I read the Shatter Me novellas, and then the Powerless novella, but like for an actual standalone book, The Roots Run Deep by Chris Strong. This is a great indie author read. This is like 230 pages, so super short. Could literally get through it in one sitting. It is very, very fast paced. Next, for my favorite book covers, I have The Spell Shop here for the first one. I just think that this is so like whimsical looking, which it is kind of a very whimsical book. It's definitely low key for most of it. And then it also has the pretty sprayed edges, but I just am obsessed with this cover. Like, this cover is a work of art in itself, and I could just stare at it all day. And then we have Ready or Not. I just think this one is so beautiful. It's in New York, but like springtime. I just love the bright colors on the trees. I, again, think it's so pretty. And then I also picked out Beautiful Ugly because I am just obsessed with the scenery, like the island there, and then the beautiful green and blue colors I just think look stunning. And then on the back it wraps around too. For the most unique books, I have 4 picked out actually, but A Study in Drowning is the first one. I just thought like the setting and overall plot of this book was really unique. It takes place in this world where the drowning happens, and I basically imagined it like a huge flooding. And in this one, the main character is like competing to be the architect to work on her famous or favorite famous author's house. She goes there and she meets another student, but he is a literature student while she's an architecture student, and he is there for the complete opposite reason, and it's to like discredit this author from his work. So then they work together. There is just some other weird, inexplainable things that happen to our main character in this book, so I thought that was really unique. And we have The 7-Year Slip. I mean, obviously it is a very unique idea for this apartment that the main character owns to magically slip 7 years into the past at any given moment, and then they could be 7 years back in the present at any given moment as well. How I'll Kill You, this one I talked about a little bit earlier, but it's basically about these 3 sisters. They're actually identical triplets, and they go around the country and choose a victim to date them, become their boyfriend, and then plot his murder. I don't know, I just think that is super unique. And then We Used to Live Here. This is such like an eerie mystery, horror, thriller. I don't know. I think it had all of those elements to it. I feel like you just gotta go into this one blindly. I can't say what makes it unique because it is crazy. Books that I have not stopped thinking about. First of all, Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I just read the arc of this, but since I read it last week, I just cannot get these characters out of my brain. I love the chemistry. I love the romance. Like, every single part of this book I loved. I've been obsessing over the characters. I can't wait until the book is actually out so I can hold it in my hands. Also, Metal Slinger. I just finished this one as well last week, and this is a fantasy book, and it is insane. Again, go into this blindly because I did that. I loved it that way, and I don't even know like a good way to describe what this book is about, but it was crazy. The ending plot twist would have never expected in a million years. Beautiful Ugly. This is such a weird thriller. I don't know. It just feels different from any other thriller that I read because it didn't really have like my heart racing. It didn't have me on the edge of my seat really, but I still wanted to find out what was going on. I wanted to keep reading it more, but the ending is what had me just like staring at the wall. I also finished this one last week, honestly. Like, all of the books last week, cannot stop thinking about because, you know what, I also read In 5 Years. And that one, the ending, I'm just like, is so absurd. I keep thinking about it. But this one, I just don't even know what to make of that ending. I don't know what was real, like what actually happened. It just left me baffled. We have Out on a Limb. This is just the sweetest book I've ever read. Accidental Pregnancy. I love Win and Bo so much. I think about them and their story and like the epilogue so often because they're just the cutest. And also the entire Boys of Tommen Binding 13 series. There is not a day that goes by where I'm not thinking about these characters. Like, if not all of them, at least one of them, because all of their stories are so heartbreaking, but also they healed me. Like, they broke my heart and then they put my heart back together. A book that I want to reread, well, the entire Boys of Tommen series. I actually want to reread these hopefully next year in 2025 and fully annotate them. Also, Out on a Limb, I definitely want to reread this and annotate it because there are so many beautiful quotes in here. And like I said, I love Win as a female main character. She was actually a contender for one of my new favorite female main characters. So definitely love her, want to go back. And also Happy Place. This was one of my 5-star reads of the year. I want to go back and read every Emily Henry book just because it's been a few years since I've read some of them, but I definitely want to reread Happy Place and annotate it. I just feel like Happy Place is going to be one of my comfort books in the future, so I think that one definitely needs some lovin'. A book I wish I could read again for the first time, I'm actually gonna go with, well, the entire Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. The twists in these books, I did not see coming. Like, I wish I could go back and reread them for the first time just so I can experience like the highs of this again, because you just had to be there. You just had to be reading it and find out in that moment, because I feel like rereading it definitely would not hit as hard. Like, I think I still would enjoy rereading them, but just because there's such insane twists at the end, it's just something you need to experience for the first time. And then I'm also gonna go with The Prison Healer because the twist at the end of this book had my jaw on the floor, was thinking about it for days afterwards because I was like, no way did that just happen. No way, but it did. So again, obviously knowing the ending and what happens in this book, it wouldn't hit as hard if I reread it. So for that reason, I wish I could like erase my memory of before I read this book and read it again. Best series. I don't know if you guys are catching on or not at all, but Boys of Tommen Binding 13 series. Do yourself a favor and read this series. That's all. If you're gonna read one series in 2025, it better be the Boys of Tommen series. Next we have Most Surprising in a Good Way and then Most Surprising in a Bad Way. So for the good way, I went with better, or not better than the movies, Nothing Like the Movies. This is the sequel to Better Than the Movies. And I honestly was not very excited for this book because I love Better Than the Movies. I love Wes and Liz together. So knowing that in nothing like the movies. They are broken up. They haven't spoken to each other. I was like, I can't handle that. But this book surprised me so well. Like, this was a 5-star read for me, and I was not expecting it. I was like, I'm gonna hate this book, it's gonna be awful, but it was actually very beautiful. I loved the banter because Wes is like pining after Liz. He's trying to get her back after they've been broken up for a few years. There's a lot of character growth and development because they're a few years older now than what we saw in Better Than the Movies. Obviously, they've gone through life changes. That literally changes you as a person. So I just thought it was very beautiful and loved it. And then for most surprising in a bad way, I went with Serpent and the Wings of Night. This is by Carissa Broadbent, and I feel like everyone tells me I'm going to love this book because I love the ACOTAR series. I love Sarah J. Maas, but I read this. It was so boring, you guys. I had to basically force myself to read it. It took me like 2 weeks to finish, and it's not even that long of a book. It's probably like 450 pages maybe, so it's really not that long, but I was just dreading picking this up anytime I had to. I was like, I literally want to read anything except this. So this was definitely very disappointing, and that is why it was surprising for me because, again, I had been told that I was going to love it, so I had such high expectations for it. I was so excited to read it, and then it was definitely surprising that I did not like it. For most emotional book, I have 3 picked out, but I went with The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. Again, I touched on this one a little bit earlier with Elsa, but just such a depressing read. I'm not sure how well you guys can see my tabs here, but I have quite a few in there, and like the dark color tabs are for sad moments. But there were some happy emotions in here too, so I feel like that's kind of good to tell you. Then we have Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This book, the main character loses her husband after just like a week or so of being married. He dies very tragically, very suddenly, and it is the main character going through the motions of grief and trying to figure out how to live without her husband now. So sad. Like, it's truly devastating. I bawled my eyes out to this. I usually don't cry like that to books. Like, I was sobbing. I was a mess. And then The Roots Run Deep. This is a story about these childhood friends who are getting together for a very special road trip to them after one of the friends has a failed suicide attempt. So obviously very, very emotional for a lot of different reasons. Again, very many sad emotions, but also some happy emotions in here. Next are books that I finally read, and Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I had read Part of Your World in 2022 or 2023, and I just picked up the second book in that series in July, I want to say. Definitely regret putting it off for that long because this is a masterpiece. Then Done and Dusted by Lila Sage. This has just been very popular, I feel like, for about a year or so now, maybe even longer than that. I had always seen it around but never read it, so finally did pick it up. It is a super easy, fast-paced, fluffy, cowboy romance, spicy Binding 13. Again, this was one I had seen all over for the longest time, but I didn't really think I'd be interested in it, and you want to know what sold me on reading it finally, because at first I thought it was just like another spicy rom-com. Like, no one had ever really told me what it was about, but then I was like, oh, it's YA. I don't know why, but sometimes I love a good YA book, even though this one is not that YA. Definitely recommend for ages 16 and older because of the explicit content. But that sold me on it for some reason. I was like, wait, I might love it if it's not just like a spicy rom-com. And you know what? I did love it because it is not a spicy rom-com. Are there some spicy scenes? Yes, but it is not a rom-com. Is there romance? Yes. Is it funny? No. And then Shatter Me. This is just another series that I had seen a lot of people talk about for a long time. So my husband got me the whole series for Christmas last year, and I read it pretty soon after that, and it was definitely worth it. Next question is books that I am happy I finally got off my TBR, and Tress of the Emerald Sea. This has been on my TBR for about a year because my husband also got me this one for Christmas last year, and I just read it like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. As I'm filming this, This one was alright. I give it a 3.5-star rating, so it was good, but it didn't like blow me away. But I am glad I got it off my TBR finally. And A Study in Drowning, I actually really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend it. This one I had on my TBR since I want to say February. So definitely glad when I picked this up in November. And The Locked Door by Frida McFadden. I can't even tell you how long I've had this one on my TBR. I want to say for over a year. And again, I just read it like 2 weeks ago. So this one was on there for a while. It was, again, alright. Nothing too crazy, but I'm glad we got it off the TBR. My favorite audiobook was definitely We Used to Live Here. This was the one I talked about a little bit earlier that's kind of like a spooky mystery thriller. Definitely an amazing audiobook read because there's just like creepy noises. I remember I was sick in bed when I listened to this. I literally listened to it in one day. When I was sick in bed, I think I got through it in like 6 or 7 hours. It's very, very fast. But I remember being scared because I'm just like laying in bed sick. I'm out of it. And then there's these scary noises. There's scary stuff happening in the book, and I'm just laying in bed like, not okay. New annual reread. I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, but Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is definitely one of my new favorite books of all time, so I definitely want to start rereading it, annotating it. It'd be fun to do annotations like every time and maybe do a different color for every time I reread it to see like what I'm really feeling in that time and moment when I'm reading it, because obviously I'm going to grow and change throughout the years reading it, so it'd be interesting to know what's going through my head, what is making me feel the way that I feel in that moment, you know? And again, I just think it's going to be one of those comfort reads where I turn back to it and reread it when I need something familiar, something I know I love, even though Happy Place is not a happy book, so you're probably like, why would you want a sad book like that? But it does have a happy ending, so it's fine. Favorite reading challenge. I am actually going to go with my reading only witchy books for a week. I just thought that was really fun, and also I had a lot of great reads that week. Like, I finished the Kingdom of the Wicked series, and those were amazing. I read The Witching Flower, and I loved that. That one's also an indie book, so that is even better. Spells for Lost Things, I really love that one. That one took place in Salem, Massachusetts, and that is where I went on my honeymoon, or a place that I visited on my honeymoon, I should say. So that one was really special for that reason, because like, they were literally talking about places in the book that my husband and I had went to during our honeymoon, so I thought that was so cool. Yeah, definitely reading witchy books, just because I also did it in October, so like the perfect time for reading witchy books. The vibes were there, but also the books were just very good. Even if I wasn't reading them during that time, I would have loved them. So definitely go check out that video if you haven't watched it already. And the last question, what am I going to prioritize for my 2025 reading choices? A few different things, but the first thing is that I want to try and focus on finishing the series that I am in the middle of, because I am in the middle of a lot of series. I don't want to start any more new series. I don't want to buy any more new series before I finish the ones that I am already in the middle of. And then also, I don't want to feel like I'm rushing books. Like, I had set a reading goal for myself for 100 books this year. I ended up upping it to, I think, like 125 maybe for the year, and I feel like I might do a goal of like 75 next year. Even though I read over 150 books this year, I just want to prioritize like good quality books, not rushing through a book just to get through it to meet that reading goal, not to like pick a short book over a long book because it'll help me reach that goal, right? Like, I actually want to sit back and think about the books that I am choosing to read. If I'm not liking it, I'm gonna DNF it, whereas like this year I really made myself push through it, even if I didn't like it, just to, again, hit that goal, which is not the right thing to do because I'm wasting time. I'm not reading things that I would actually love and enjoy. And then another goal is to get through my physical TBR and buy less books. I have over 100 books on my physical TBR right now. I also have more books like on Kindle Unlimited that I want to read. And I have been getting better about my book buying. I really don't buy that much too often anymore as I used to. but it's definitely still something I need to do. So I definitely need to limit myself like every month. I really want to prioritize only buying like new releases that are very highly anticipated for me instead of buying just like random books here and there, because I don't need to add to my TBR right now. If I get through my TBR, then we can talk about buying more books, but right now that is just not the case. So I guess those are my reading choices, like what I'm going to prioritize for reading in 2025. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more book content. Comment your favorite read of the year down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!